Hashtag History, episode 99. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And I was thinking maybe we should address our little unintentional mid-season break a little bit. Yeah? Yeah, we should acknowledge it.
Yeah,
right?
we should, yes.
Never in the history of the Hashtag History podcast have we ever had to take a mid-season break. For the past nearly 3 years, we have consistently put out a new episode every Tuesday during our regular seasons. But the last month?
Maybe
months?
even more than, months.
Months have been crazy. Am I right?
You're right. Yeah. Now, we don't necessarily want to bore you with all the life updates and details. So if you are interested in hearing more details about said life updates, we are actually dropping a hashtag hangout episode on our Patreon this upcoming Friday, where we will definitely dive deep into all the details.
All the deets.
And that's not to put it behind a paywall. We're not trying to force you to join our Patreon to hear what's new with us. We just don't want to bore anyone that's here strictly for the history.
Yes.
So if you aren't part of our Patreon and you do want to hear about it, just message us or email us.
We would love that. We're relatively open books. Just shoot us a message.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of this episode, we did just want to acknowledge that we are back from that weird little break, and we're so grateful to all of you for all of your patience and your understanding. We are so happy to be back and so excited that you all are here.
Definitely.
We are doing something really exciting for our season closer this time around. This is something that we've had planned for a long time now. We are on season 10, nearing episode 100.
Wowza.
And we decided what we would like to do 100 episodes later is bring it back to where this all began. If you've been around for a long time, you know that we dropped our very first episodes in July of 2019, and they were all about Chappaquiddick. This is an incident in history that continues to fascinate me to this day. It will continue to fascinate me for all of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted the opportunity to share about it with you all again. If you have listened to our original coverage of this episode, don't go anywhere. This isn't going to be a total repeat of what we've already done. Our show has come so far and progressed so much.
So much.
So much. We've implemented so many changes and have bettered the show significantly over the past nearly 3 years. This is going to be a completely different experience than the first time around. If you have not listened to our original coverage of this incident, please do not listen to it.
Don't do it. Don't do that to yourself.
Please do not hurt both yourself and us by doing that. I myself attempted to listen to it again.
I haven't, but I'm going to.
Oh, don't. I tried in preparation for this episode, and it is the cringe. The cringe is strong.
Yeah.
The cringe is thick. It's
palpable.
It's palpable. You can, in fact, taste it. I am so awkward in our original recording.
Oh my God.
Our audio quality is so bad.
That I concur with, for sure.
It's so bad. In the end, I decided it was better to not listen to the original episodes again anyway, because I want us to have the most fresh take on it this time around, and I don't want to be influenced by what we have done in the past.
Totally.
Having said all that, thank you so much to all of you for being here. This has been an amazing journey over the last almost 3 years, and it feels really special to be taking things back to where it all began. You all know what we are talking about this week. The 1969 Chappaquiddick incident, otherwise referred to simply as Chappaquiddick, in which Senator Ted Kennedy drove his car off of a bridge into a pond off Chappaquiddick Island in Massachusetts on July 18th, 1969, and escaped while leaving his passenger behind to die. We know what we're in for here today, although we were entirely clueless about all of this nearly 3 years ago.
Totally.
Something that has always been dialed in with the podcast, though, from day one, is our cocktail segment.
Okay.
I mean, we knew we were going to do it every time.
True. And we have.
So let's dive on into that.
Nice.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Hashtag History, the podcast for both history nerds and history haters alike, where we dive into history's greatest stories of controversy, conspiracy, and corruption.
First and foremost, thank you once again to Civics Pod, which is Civics and Coffee podcast. This is their second of 2 cocktails that they've sponsored.
Thank you.
And once again, they wished us Merry Holidays, and it's might be 5 months later now. No big deal.
No big deal. That is both a attribute to how amazing and how fortunate and how lucky we are that we have gotten so many cocktail sponsors, and we're only just now getting to one several months later. Also an attribute to we took like a month off of the podcast.
Right.
So 1 month added on for that. The rest just because we're really super lucky, fortunate people.
Yeah. So we are redoing the first cocktail number 1 that we ever drank on the podcast, and it was called the Rose Kennedy cocktail.
I remember nothing about it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
We were talking about this while we were making it, and we were like, there's no way this is what it looked like.
No, I'm confident this is not what it looked like, and in fact, when we get to the ingredients, I'm confident I never bought those ingredients.
Oh, like grapefruit vodka? No. Yeah. What we're doing is the Rose Kennedy cocktail, and it contains grapefruit vodka, soda water, a splash of cranberry juice, and then a wedge of lemon to garnish. And I did squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in as well.
Yay.
So just some fun, fast facts about this cocktail. It is kind of like a low-carb version of the Cape Cod cocktail, and it's rumored to have gotten its name at Trumpets, which is a gay bar in Washington, D.C. in probably the 1990s.
Cool.
So that's some fun stuff, but I do think this is going to be very different, so I am excited to try it.
I'm so excited. Cheers.
Cheers. It's refreshing.
It's refreshing. It feels like it needs something more, right?
Yeah, it's like very refreshing because, I mean, there's a decent amount of club soda in it, but I do agree it's missing something.
It's missing something. Yeah, it just needs a little more.
Maybe more cranberry juice?
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I like it though.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
5. 4? 4? 4.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to agree with that.
It's just whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever.
And honestly, I'm not the hugest grapefruit fan either.
Me neither.
It's always a little too bitter for me.
All right, so this is a 4 or 5. 4. Before we dive any further into this week's episode, something that I want to address right off the top that I find oftentimes gets lost in this story is that we are discussing an incident that resulted in the loss of a young woman's life. 28-year-old Mary Jo Kopechne lost her life because of what happened that night in Chappaquiddick, and that's something that I want to make sure we acknowledge right up top, as it's something we will never forget while covering this case. All right, so let's begin by laying some background and foundation of who Ted Kennedy was. Edward Moore Kennedy, known as Ted Kennedy, was born on February 22nd, 1932. Any history nerds out there will catch on that February 22nd was also George Washington's birthday, and actually February 22nd, 1932, Kennedy's exact birth date, was the 200th anniversary of Washington's birthday. That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Kennedy was born the youngest of 9 children.
Wowza.
On top of that, Kennedy was moved around more than half a dozen times as a kid. By the age of 11, he had attended 10 schools. Kennedy was a pretty poor student and oftentimes found himself compared to his more accomplished older siblings.
Oh, boo-hoo.
You're very sympathetic. You don't even know what happened yet.
It's not like we've already recorded an episode about this topic.
You have no idea what's coming, and you're already being so unsympathetic.
No, it's more just like he was born into privilege. He's, like, was a crappy student, but then somehow, ...
Oh, yeah. There will be lots of however.
Yeah.
Lots of those coming up. His lazy approach to academics would follow him through into his college years. Following in the footsteps of his father and brother, he attended Harvard University.
Yeah, because that happens for normal people. They get to go to Harvard after being shitty students.
Oh, and it gets worse.
Okay.
While there at Harvard, it became rather clear that he was much more interested in being involved in things like athletics and not so much academics. There's this story that comes from his time at Harvard when he, along with some of his classmates, all worked together to exchange answers for a final exam in a science class.
Shameful.
He would continue this similar behavior in a Spanish class when he got a classmate of his to stand in and take a test for him. What?
The
It's
final?
crazy. And just having the nerve to do something like that.
And the ego.
And the ego and the awareness that you can do things like that.
Whatever
and
you
we'll
want.
be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's not going to come up later at all.
You act like you've heard this story before. In this particular instance, his behavior would catch up to him as both he and the classmate were caught and expelled for cheating. As would become a pattern, however, the Kennedy family always ensured that everything worked out for him. Ted Kennedy enlisted in the Army, but his father intervened and made sure that he only served 2 years and that he was not deployed in the Korean War. His father also ensured that when he returned from service 2 years later, he was able to successfully enroll at Harvard once again.
Wow.
He completed school, but only just barely. Because of his low grades, he was not accepted into Harvard Law and instead followed in the footsteps of his brother, Robert, and went on to study at the University of Virginia School of Law, which this whole thing was also a controversy in and of itself. I won't go too into detail on it, but apparently he almost didn't get accepted here either because of his cheating history, and it was a big thing just to get his foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, it works out.
Yeah.
And regardless, he did, albeit with a C average, graduate from law school in 1959. He was admitted to the bar the following year and right away began his political career assisting his brother, John, with his presidential campaign. Now that we've laid some groundwork, we're going to fast forward to 1969. This is only 10 years later, and truly tragically, within literally 10 years, both John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy, Ted's older brothers, had both been assassinated. Additionally, the oldest Kennedy son, Joe Jr., had been killed during World War II.
Oh.
This left Ted Kennedy as what I guess I'll call, like, the last standing male heir,
Yeah.
which almost sounds too dignitary, but that also kind of tracks for the Kennedy family.
Yeah, they're like royalty almost.
They essentially are.
Yeah.
After the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy had started his own campaign for the presidency, and there were a number of women who served on his 1968 presidential campaign. One of those women was Mary Jo Kopechne. Before I go any further, I can feel my woman power, eternal feminism coming out, and I need to address something here.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of the Chappaquiddick incident, and even still today, Mary Jo Kopechne was often referred to rather simply as the secretary. But we, of course, know that she was so much more than that. Kopechne was an extremely accomplished woman at the time of this incident. She graduated with a business degree and worked on both JFK's campaign and that of Florida Senator before working in Robert Kennedy's Senate office. She helped write his speeches and gathered important campaign information. Beyond just her professional role, her role in the Kennedys' lives extended to a personal level. She was there at the Ambassador Hotel on June 5th, 1968, when Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and was even on the funeral train alongside the Kennedy family and friends that transported his body back to Arlington Cemetery. Kopechne and 5 other single women, all in their 20s, all known as the Boiler Room Girls for the windowless office they all worked in together on Robert Kennedy's campaign, they were all invited to a reunion-type party at Sidney Lawrence's cottage. Lawrence was a lawyer in Chappaquiddick that rented his cottage out to the Kennedys. There were also 6 other men at the party that night. Ted Kennedy, of course, and 2 other names that you'll want to remember. Joseph Gargan, Kennedy's cousin, and Paul Markham, a former U.S. attorney for Massachusetts. Although all of the women at this party were single, all of the men were married. That is, with the exception of Kennedy's 63-year-old chauffeur, who was also in attendance. And this is just like me being petty, probably. But I think it's worth mentioning here that Kennedy's wife was pregnant at this time as well. Now, this party was lit. Just kidding. I don't actually know how fun the party really was.
It could have been really awkward, actually.
It's kind of a work party, so it may not have been that much fun.
Yeah.
What we do know is that they are all hanging out at the cottage and they're drinking. According to Kennedy's report, he decided around 11:15 p.m. to leave the party. Apparently, Kopechne told him she was ready to leave too. According to Kennedy, Kopechne asked him if he wouldn't mind taking her back to her hotel, and that was the only reason they both disappeared from the party at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I cannot speak to what the true intentions were that evening. Friends of Kopechne's following this incident provided some context when they shared that this was not, a wild party like it was portrayed in the media, but was rather more of a thank you to the women for all of their hard work on the campaign. Kopechne's friends also clarified that Kopechne was not at this party for Ted Kennedy. According to her friends, she didn't even really know him that well. But we do know that Kennedy and Kopechne left the house together. And when they did, Kennedy had to ask for the keys to the car, because remember, he had a chauffeur that drove him around.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that Kopechne left both her purse and her hotel key back at the party house, which is all just interesting.
I have many thoughts.
Yeah.
The number one being, what was the chauffeur gonna do? Was he just chilling at the house? Like,
I think he was kind of part of the party.
Okay.
I think he was part of the party.
Okay.
I get that sense. But yeah, it is interesting that Kennedy was like, I have a chauffeur literally whose job is to drive me around. And he asked that chauffeur for the keys to his car. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that she left both her purse and her hotel key back at the party if the intent was to go back to her hotel.
Yeah.
Now, from what I've read, at least one person did actually witness the two of them leaving together, but everyone at the party would later report that neither Kennedy nor Kopechne had actually told anyone that they were leaving. According to Kennedy, he was driving himself and Kopechne to the ferry building, but ended up taking a wrong turn at Dyke Road.
Mm-hmm. A wrong turn.
This is a pretty interesting account because we know that the Kennedy family was super familiar with this area. In fact, there is evidence that Ted Kennedy himself drove over Dyke Road twice earlier that day. But anyway, according to him, he makes this wrong turn and he ends up going towards Dyke Bridge. Again, very interesting since there is evidence that he had also driven over Dyke Bridge twice earlier that day. Per his account, just before he reached the bridge at approximately 20 miles per hour, he applied his brakes, lost control, and the car took off over the side of the bridge, which was not fitted with a guardrail back in 1969. The car plunged into the water and it flipped upside down. According to Kennedy, he was able to escape from the car, although he could not remember how, and said that he dove back down into the water 7 or 8 times to assist Kopechne, but to no avail. Due to exhaustion, he then rested on the bank for about 15 minutes before walking back to Lawrence's cottage where the party was still going on. Now, because of who I personally am as a human being, I oftentimes want to give everyone every benefit of the doubt, sometimes to a fault.
And I'm kind of probably the opposite.
Not a bad thing to be a little more cynical of people because, like I said, to a fault. But in this particular circumstance, I am almost willing to give Kennedy the benefit of the doubt that, assuming what he says is true and that he did attempt several times to assist Kopechne, maybe those 15 minutes of resting were necessary, having just exerted as much energy as he did diving in and out of the water and truly just reeling from the shock of what had just happened.
Yeah, I can believe that.
But also, as the human being that I am, I cannot shake the icky feeling that he did not then, after resting, immediately run for help from whomever or whatever was the nearest resource.
Yes.
He claimed that he saw no houses on his way back to the party, but in fact, he would pass 4 houses along the way. Again, this is an area that the Kennedy family knew really well. Even more than that, Sylvia Malm, who lived in the house literally called Dyke House because it sat only 150 yards from Dyke Bridge, says that she was home that night and had even left a light on. So let's check out a picture here.
Yeah, so it's a photo of Dyke Bridge, and you can see there isn't a guardrail. It kind of shows, you can see the tire marks are circled as to where the car ran off the bridge. And then in the background is circled a house, and it's Dyke House.
And this is a very, what's the word I want? There's a lot of greenery going on,
Oh,
right?
totally.
But it is set forward of all of that greenery. It is immediately off the road.
Especially if there's a light on.
And there would be a light on.
It's right on the road.
It's essentially on the road.
Yes. Like, I'd be actually a little scared that people would run into my house.
Oh, that's what I was literally just now thinking was, like, you don't necessarily want your house to be that close to the road.
No.
And he didn't see that on his way back.
Yeah. Like, well, I know we're getting into a ton more details, but I don't doubt that his intentions weren't to, like,
oh yeah,
kill,
no.
obviously. It's the reaction that is very questionable.
Yes. What we're about to get into is what's questionable to me. I don't doubt that he did try to, like, he got out of this car.
Or, like, even if he didn't try, like, you might be in shock. Like, I get all that. But then once that wears off, let's address this situation.
Yes. Yes. Because, I mean, think of it being like you and me.
Yeah.
It's like, if something like that happened, you're still in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying like hell to get you out.
Yeah.
Like, either myself or I'm finding the next immediate resource.
Yeah.
Unless she just looked at me like, oh shit.
Shit, I'm about to die.
But unless I don't want anyone to know that I was with you.
Right.
I wasn't supposed to be with you that night.
Yeah.
Or
I shouldn't have turned down this road because we're doing something. There's something else happening.
That's just where my mind goes.
I know. That's where most people's minds go.
Yeah. So I do feel like if he was really, truly seeking help, that he would have found it. The very first initial response should have been to go racing for help. And yet Kennedy walked right past 4 potential options. I'm trying to understand his mindset in that moment, but no matter how many times or ways I look at it, I just can't rationalize or justify it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it goes back to what I just said. I think the horrible but simple answer is that he didn't want help. He didn't want to report the incident. He didn't want to call attention to what he had done. And that's a theme that's going to present itself over and over in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hey everyone, we are so excited to share with you about Macy's Wine Shop. Yes, it is that Macy's. Macy's has launched their very own wine shop, which includes full-size, delicious wines curated by their experts coming from renowned wine regions, which include our home state of California and beyond. You can select exactly what type of wine you are looking for. Do you love reds? Do you love whites? Maybe a little bit of both? You can make these personalized selections quickly and easily through the Macy's Wine Shop. What makes Macy's Wine Shop better than any other online wine club is that they deliver quality wines at unmatched price points, all within 1 to 3 business days. Seriously, I ordered my wine on a Monday and had already received them by that following Wednesday. And with our link, you get $50 off a 6-bottle box of Macy's award-winning wines, which is a $95 retail value. Head to the show notes of this episode to access the discount code, or you can head to our Instagram to find the link in our bio. Cheers! When Kennedy reached the cottage, the party was still going on. One of the attendees, a man named Ray LaRosa, whom I should add was a former fireman and had not been drinking that day, and maybe would have been a good resource, saw Kennedy return to the house. Kennedy asked LaRosa to go get his cousin Gargan from inside. So again, just reiterating that Kennedy did not ask for help from the very first person he saw, the very person that could have saved Chappaquiddick, and instead he asked for his buddies. Gargan went outside and saw Kennedy sitting in a car. As he was getting into the car, Kennedy told him he, quote, better get Paul too, unquote, referring to Paul Markham.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Gargan, Markham, and Kennedy are all in the car when Markham asked what was going on. Gargan later recalled that Kennedy rather simply told them that there had been an accident, that the car had gone off the bridge down by the beach, and that Mary Jo Chappaquiddick was in it. Gargan remembered that Kennedy didn't appear to be particularly distressed. Rather, he was pretty factual about what had happened. And speaking of being factual, Kennedy did admit then and there that he had been the one driving the car, and that's an important note to remember for later. Gargan's first thought, of course, was to get to Dyke Bridge as soon as possible. When they reached the pond and saw the car flipped upside down, Gargan said he did an immediate calculation in his head. He said, quote, my timing was based on the fact that the senator had left the cottage, then come back. I knew from the distance he traveled that at least an hour to 45 minutes had to have elapsed from the time of the accident to the time we got back to the bridge, unquote. Having calculated all of that, Gargan had no expectation that Chappaquiddick would still be alive. Regardless of this, he positioned the car that they had driven to the bridge so that the headlights were shining on the water, and he and Markham stripped and jumped in together in an effort to save Chappaquiddick.
Despite knowing, this is the difference here.
Yep.
Despite knowing that there's probably no hope, they still go in and they still try to get her out.
Because wouldn't you?
Because wouldn't you?
Because wouldn't you? According to Gargan, getting to Chappaquiddick was essentially impossible. He said that the current kept dragging him away from the car, in addition to making it impossible for him to keep his eyes open. Also, keep in mind that all of these men had been drinking all night. I mean, depending on how much you've had to drink, some people have difficulty like walking after drinking, much less diving in and out of water.
Yeah.
From what I've read of Gargan's and Markham's attempts to reach Chappaquiddick, I do feel that they really did try, but it was simply impossible. They resurfaced and climbed out of the water to meet Kennedy, where he had been observing from the bridge. As they redressed, Gargan said, quote, "I had one thing in mind at the time, and that was to report the accident. I didn't say that when I was dressing, but I was thinking what happened had to be reported immediately. Not in terms of calling the fire department or making another rescue attempt. There was nothing to rescue. The thing was over." Unquote. And that, I just want to take a pause just because that's so devastating. They all knew at this point that Chappaquiddick was more than likely dead.
I mean, it'd been, what you said, 15 minutes and then coming back and then diving for multiple minutes. Like,
yeah, you're looking at over an hour at this point of someone submerged and trapped underwater. The three men got back in the car and headed toward the ferry landing, where Gargan and Markham intended to use the public telephone to call the police. Kennedy, on the other hand, began brainstorming some other ideas. Perhaps he could tell people that Chappaquiddick had been alone in the car, that she had been driving. In fact, he suggested to Gargan that Gargan could happen upon the site of the accident and discover it, report it to police, and then tell them that Chappaquiddick had been alone. Both Gargan and Markham immediately rejected this proposal. They were not about to lie about what had happened, especially when all of the other ladies back at the cottage had figured out that Chappaquiddick and Kennedy had left together. They knew there was no way they could convince all of those ladies to remain silent about what had really happened. Another point that Gargan later made was that when the three men were out at the bridge attempting to reach Chappaquiddick, they hadn't exactly been quiet about it. They had been screaming back and forth to one another, and the lights from the car were on, lighting up the whole area. They had no idea at that time if someone had seen or heard them, and if that person could place Ted Kennedy at the scene. Gargan suggested Kennedy call Burke Marshall, who was, according to Robert Kennedy, the best lawyer he knew. Gargan also tried to convince Kennedy to call his mother, Rose. Rose Kennedy had found out about both of her sons, John's and Robert's assassinations on the radio. Gargan didn't want her to hear about Ted Kennedy's accident at the bridge in a similar manner. But Kennedy was not having any of this. When they reached the ferry landing, Kennedy essentially told Gargan he was sick of all his nagging, that he had had enough of it, and that there wasn't anything to worry about. He told Gargan that he would take care of it, and that what he really needed from Gargan was to go back to the cottage and make sure that the ladies there were all good and to not involve them in the scenario whatsoever. And with that, Kennedy got out of the car and he dove into the water. So, any questions?
Any questions here?
He literally got out of the car, dove into the water, and just started swimming away.
Yeah, that's a guy in his right mind right there.
Yeah. As Gargan later stated, Kennedy's sudden departure, quote, hadn't been discussed in advance. The senator merely left.
And didn't just leave. Left in a very strange way.
Very strange.
Could you imagine if we're like walking by the river or something and I just go, I need you to stop nagging me right now. And I dove into the water.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, as Gargan says, this wasn't planned in advance. He didn't know what was going on. Our conversation was cut short, unquote.
Yeah.
Even still, Gargan felt certain that Kennedy would take care of the situation like he said he would, that he would report the accident once he swam to the mainland. You've never heard that phrase before? We just swim to our hotels now.
Yes.
And that it was Gargan's responsibility to take care of the ladies back at the cottage. Yeah. Do you have questions? Why are you lost here? Obviously, when we're done with conversations, we just jump in the water and start swimming off.
Ice cold water. Okay.
We don't even do that in normal conversation, like a conversation you don't want to have. You don't walk away.
Yeah.
Even from even that is unusual, to just walk away from a conversation you don't want to have.
But then add on top of it. Yeah.
Jump into a body of water
and swim to the mainland.
Stop it. Just stop it.
Okay.
Is that the most outrageous thing we've heard so far? No. Actually.
Yeah.
But it's up there. Gargan and Markham returned to the cottage around 2:30 a.m. and found that the party had died down. While Markham was settling in, Gargan fielded questions from the ladies. He lied and he told them that Kennedy and Chappaquiddick were fine, that they had taken the last ferry of the night, and encouraged them all to stay the night at the cottage and get some rest.
Why did they have this cottage if they weren't all staying there? Was someone staying there?
I think, you know, let's assume that this party, I do sort of believe this. I don't think this party had ill intentions.
No.
That the party itself was ill-intended.
No.
And I do kind of view it as like a reunion work type party.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't stay the night at, like, say we rented this house or whatever. I'm probably not staying at that house with like all my male coworkers.
Yeah.
If I'm with my female coworkers, oh no, we got a hotel that it's a couple minute drive to the ferry that then takes us to our hotel.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? I mean, I feel like if you're with a bunch of your lady friends, like, no, we got our own pad.
Yeah.
We've got our own place where we're going to go back and talk about you after the party. But yeah, so they did have their own hotel, and Gargan instead encouraged them to stay the night at the cottage to get some rest. He also, like I already shared, told them that the last ferry of the night had already taken off. In truth, Gargan needed the ladies to stay at the cottage that night. If any of them left and went back to their motel, they would quickly see that Chappaquiddick had never made it back there herself. And that's where we will leave off with this week's episode.
Oh my god.
Be sure to come back here next week for part 2 of the Chappaquiddick incident and what will be our 100th episode.
Oh, whoa.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of #History.
The picture that we discussed on the episode will be shared on our Instagram, and all sources used to put together this episode can be found on our website at #history-pod.com.
Subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use. Share about us with your family and friends, and then we'd love it so much if you gave us a rate and review. You can leave written reviews and ratings on Apple Podcast, and you can leave simply ratings on Spotify. We love them both.
Yes, totally. Social media.
Yes, the socials.
The socials. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. You can find us at #history_podcast. We're also on TikTok, not very active, but we're on there, at #history, and on Twitter, even less active, at #history_.
And come join us over on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can help support our books and booze supply. You will also get access to some behind-the-scenes content, weekly #hangout episodes, particularly this next week. We're going to be talking about all the things that have been going on this last month.
Oh, yeah.
All the things. So we'd love it if you were over there. And also, as a member of our Patreon, you get an automatic 15% off all merchandise. And we also mail you cards and stickers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. I just burped. Sorry.
How did Ted come from Edward?
I don't know how it does, but it's not just him. Like, I hear it all the time. Like, Teddy, Ted.
Well, isn't that from Theodore?
But I've heard it from Edward before, too.
Well, that's weird.
Tedward?
Tedward?
I don't know, but I've heard it before.
It's weird. Okay.
Yeah, I come with some facts, not all of the facts. I can tell you when his birthday was.
Great. Please
Really
do.
Not how his name originated.
Okay.
At all right. So as to his birthday, we went to the moon in 1969. Do you remember that from Even Stevens? Not 1968, but the year after. You don't remember this from Even Stevens? Did you not watch it?
It sounds big. Of course I watched it.
Went to the moon in 1969. Not 1968, but the year after. You really don't remember this?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Christy Carlson Romano. We'll look it up later.
Did what's his name play the drums for it?
I don't remember if he did.
Okay.
Joe Jr.
Joe Jr.
Looked like he was a leaning. This left Ked Teddy.
Ked.
As a member of our Patreon, you get an automatic 15% off all merchandise. Awful of our awful merchandise. Oh my god.